bit. The next speaker is Chris Gentile. Chris, are you there? Hi, Chris.
Hello, David. How are you doing today?
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Okay. Chris is based in Florida. He's one of our best account and project manager in Multiplica US. He's going to talk about conversion rate optimization process from analysis to deployment. He's been working in different projects, and I think that we're going to have really interesting insights from his talk. So all yours, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Christopher Gentile, and I am an account and project manager here at Multiplica. Specifically, I work at Multiplica US, based out of the United States, and I'm working out of Miami. And today, I'm so excited to talk to you about the optimization process as a whole and how we go about doing that. But first, I just wanted to give you a quick introduction of who we are. So again, Multiplica is global. We have offices all over the world, and specifically Multiplica US functions out of San Francisco, California, Miami, Florida, Boca Raton, Florida, and Boulder, Colorado. And again, here is just a nice little infographic. Multiplica started in Barcelona in 2000, and we've grown to all these cities all over the world. And if you like anything you hear today, please give us a shout on our social media at Multiplica US. And of course, if you have any questions going forward after today, don't hesitate to email us at optimization@multiplica.us. Now, again, we are a full-service digital agency, and today we're going to talk about optimization. But we're also going to touch on analytics and UX design because that plays crucial roles in optimization. So analytics, UX design, and optimization, or as we like to call them, the three pillars to what make up an awesome end user experience. So now for what all of you have been waiting for, our process. So when it comes to optimization, we put ourselves in the user's shoes, any shoes for that matter. And we do this because it's so crucial to understand the user journey. When a user first comes onto your site, from that to the time of their purchase, it's so important to try to hone in on their behavior on your site. And it doesn't matter who you are in terms of a user, because here at Multiplica, we believe in a UX experience that shines. At the end of the day, if your user is happy on your site, that's going to make you happy. So it's so crucial to have a UX experience that works very well. And we do this by mapping the user journey. So we start with acquisition, we enhance connection, and then we find meaning. So what do we mean by that? When it comes to your users, they're on your site, they're looking for something. What do they need? What do they want from your site? From here, it's about how they make connections. How are they purchasing? How are they using? How are they getting functionality out of your site? And then from there, it's finding meaning. It's turning your users into partners. It's making them evangelize your brand so that more users are going to come. And once we map the user journey, that's when we get our hands dirty and start executing. So by now, all of you are familiar with the idea of conversion rate optimization. And at Multiplica, we go for growth rate optimization. And I want you to remember that from today as continuous optimization and testing to generate sustainable growth for your business. And of course, our team of growth rate optimization experts fully understand your business and your digital ecosystem to really hone in on what requirements you need when it comes to testing. And of course, at Multiplica US, we have a team of growth rate experts that are truly dedicated to finding out what works best for your users when it comes to growth rate. Now, once we engage, there's two processes that we go by. We start with the strategy process, and this entails, how do we know the types of things to test? Once we know what we want to test and what we feel will work best, then it becomes the sprint process. And that's how do we bring these testing ideas to life? So with the strategy process, it starts with the discovery process. And at a high level, that's when we find out your business goals. We take a look at the data and your users. We look at what tools would work best for your business and brand. And then, of course, the strategy, the testing roadmap to find out what things should be best to test for your case. Now, what is the discovery? Well, at the discovery, here's where we work together with you to understand the challenges that your business currently faces for your site. What do you know about your users? What you know that they love about your site? What they don't love about your site? Any problems you know? How are your users interacting? The behavior? And also, from a business standpoint, what's your competition like? What are some barriers or scenarios that you know that your users are having trouble with? And this is where we really attempt to identify also opportunities and gather strategic insights on the types of things that we should be testing. So starting with goals, of course, it's all about listening to your business needs. And revenue is a big goal, and there's plenty of ways to increase revenue. For instance, increase conversion, obviously, a decrease in bounce rate, and increase in engagement. And every case is different, and this is why we pride ourselves in listening to what your brand needs specifically. Once we have goals taken care of, that's when we take a deep dive at the analytics. And this is all about understanding your data and where there are any drop-offs throughout your site. We take a look at the checkout funnels. And if their users are dropping off, then you have a leaky funnel. Likewise, are there any landing pages that aren't doing well? Are there certain pages that aren't performing as well as others? Those are leaky pipes. And we do this, again, we're tool agnostic. So we don't favor one tool over the other. We use whatever tools are best for you. And we're familiar with Core Metrics, Google Analytics, and Adobe Site Catalyst, just to name a few. Now, once we have the analytics deep dive taken care of, that again is when we revisit user journey. And we do this through user testing tools. And again, it's so important to understand the current user flow on your site and their journey from an informative perspective to the conversion stage. And some of you may be familiar with all these tools, but you know, there's Crazy Egg, Hotjar, and user testing, just to name a few. And of course, again, we are tool agnostic. So we use whichever tools are best for your business. Now, speaking of tools, that's when we have the tool selection process. And David is going to talk much more in depth in just a little bit about the tool selection, but the tool selection is all about finding the best testing tool for your brand. So of course there's Optimizely, VWO, Monetate, and Google Optimize, just to name a few that we use for all of our clients. And again, that idea of being tool agnostic, not favoring one tool, it's really what's best for your brand. And once all that is out of the way, then that's when we focus on the strategy. And this is where we focus on testing all of the ideas based on the data. And it's so crucial to remember that when it comes to testing, you should always test what the data is trying to tell you. It's all about what the market is telling you. Listen to your users. So the strategy is data and user-centric approach to those informative ideas and trying to get the best out of your users from testing. So once that process is finished, then it's all about the sprint process. It's about turning those ideas into executable functions. So we also like to call it the agile process. And at a high level, once we have the ideas, we send the ideas off to you to select which ones you prefer to test. And from there, once we are all in agreement, we go into wireframing and design, development and QA. We launch, of course, monitor for insights, and report on our findings. And at a high level, you can see the sprint timeline. You know, we have ideation, wireframing, design, development, launching and monitoring. And of course, in the background, we gear up for the next sprint or the next set of ideas in terms of ideation. And of course, it's important to note that approval times are crucial to achieve success. So roughly, we look for 2-day turnarounds at the end of each function. And here, in terms of an idea, this is an example of something we've done in the past. For this specific cruise company, in their cruise planner, when they wanted to show their users some extra excursions. But we found that it was hard to visualize how some of these really cool excursions would fit best on their trip. So what we proposed was adding a cruise planner itinerary in there, so users can easily find out which excursions would work best for them. So here you can see this is really what we like to do. This is the control and the experiment. And so we like to have an original versus proposed whenever we present ideas. And you can see the control was what was there originally, and then the experiment is a rough idea of what the idea looks like. And once we have a whole deck dedicated to that, and once we have the summary, so here's a summary example of that, and you can see ideas A to F. So B, E, F, and C were obviously approved, and anything that isn't approved goes back to ideation process, and we really try to enhance it to make sure that it's testable. And again, it's so important to note that all of these ideas are data and user driven from the analytics. So once we have all of the ideas ready and approved, that's when we start with the process of wireframing and designing. So for instance, if we're doing a major checkout redesign, of course, that's going to take wireframing. And once we start with those wireframes and those are approved, then it's all about designing and adding color to those wireframes. Once design are all set and ready to go, we then send to development and QA. And this is where we code the experiment and we do extensive quality assurance to make sure that everything is working as it should. And once those are all developed and QA'd, then the fun part, we launch and monitor. And this is where we get to launch the experience through the testing tool that we've implemented and monitor, and just to make sure that everything is working correctly as it should in the analytics. And then it comes to reporting. And this is where we get to answer the question of how did the experience do? You know, did we meet your business goals? And for this specific experience, we can see that the conversion rate was up 15%, the revenue per session was up about 16%, and the AOV was up 1.25. And during the testing period, there was incremental revenue of $108,000, just about. So the conclusion for this specific experience for the cruise planner itinerary was that it was a winner and that it was recommended to implement on site. And of course, it's important to note that if your analytics suite is integrating with the testing tool, we're also able to look at this data and the experience this way. Because, you know, the more data you have, the better. So it never hurts to get as much of a 360-degree view of the data and what your users are trying to tell you. So if there's one thing you can remember for today, it's all about looking at what your users are trying to communicate with you and following what they're trying to tell you. And of course, if you liked anything you saw today, you know, please don't hesitate to email us at optimization@multiplica.us, and we'd love to hear from you. And I believe, you know, if there's any questions, we had some time for a brief QA session.
Thank you, Chris, for your nice presentation. We have two questions for you.
Okay.
One is, how long does it take to get results from testing?
Okay, great question. So you really should start to see directional data a few days after implementing your tests. And it all depends on your traffic, of course. Having said that, in terms of tests with significance, that could be anywhere from a week to 3 weeks to even more sometimes. Again, it's solely dependent on the amount of traffic that the page that you're testing is getting.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, what are some type of things that we should be testing in a commerce site?
Okay, oh, great question. So that, I guess you can say the fun answer to that question is you should test everything and anything. But of course, the more correct answer is you should really be testing based on what your analytics are telling you. So while I can tell you that you should be testing urgency, you should be testing different messages in your checkout, it's really based on what your users are telling you. So you should test always based off your data.
Okay, thank you. Thank you a lot, Chris, for your time. Okay, let's move to David Otero. David,